Well, hey there, and welcome to Rural Strong Live. Tonight, presented by Economics by Nutrien. Get valuable agronomic intel that'll help you make informed growing decisions at nutrien-economics.com. That's nutrien-economics.com. I'm your host, Brent Adams, and tonight we welcome into the program a gifted singer-songwriter out of Nashville by way of Houston, Texas. He's been considered for 9 Grammy nominations and was inducted into the California Music Hall of Fame with LeAnn Rimes. He also has been the winner of the Josie Music Award for Modern Country Artist of the Year at the Grand Ole Opry, also the Durango Songwriters Expo, and Best Country at the Wine Country Music Awards. What I Really Want to Say topped the new country artist chart at number 1 for 4 weeks on a video that aired on GAC in Heartland. And his debut CD, What I Really Want to Say, debuted in the iTunes Top 100 country charts. He's put together a special career here and a special program that's putting guitars into the hands of folks who might not otherwise get to access them. So we're going to talk a lot about that tonight and about some new music that he has out here that we're going to share with you toward the end of the program. But first things first, Steven Cade, welcome in to Rural Strong Live.
Thank you, Brent. It's great to be here.
Man, what a blessing to have you along tonight. It's we've shared some great conversation offline here, and want to tell everybody I met Steven at an Academy of Country Music event premiering the upcoming ACM Awards, which are going to be held Thursday, May 11th on Prime Video and the Amazon Music channel on Twitch. So if you want to tune into those, we were kind of behind the scenes here and struck up a conversation, and I was just kind of blown away by some of the stuff that he's working on, and learning about that was really a blessing to me. So I wanted to share what he's working on with you guys, so you're familiar too. And Steven, before we get going here and we talk about some of that stuff, we mentioned in the open you're originally from Texas. Tell us about growing up there and how you found yourself falling in love with music.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Houston, Texas, and downtown for a lot of Houstonians that know, in St. Joseph's Hospital there. And I went to school in South Houston to a Catholic school from the age of 5 years old all the way to like 13, around 14. And during that time that I lived in Houston, I basically wanted to, I was just enjoying living in the South and being with family, really getting footing in country music, because we lived in South Houston, which was really close to a place called Mickey Gilley's. And so, I felt like, man, I just was brought up around country music and family. And just, even though Houston at that time was big, we lived in a suburb, and it just felt like home, at that time, living with my parents at that time. Just some really wonderful memories. I still go back as much as I can, but yeah, I'm a Texan at heart for sure.
Do you remember who you were listening to growing up, and what kind of influences they had on you?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I listened to, like a lot of the big ones like Willie Nelson and, Waylon Jennings, Mel Tillis, Ronnie Millsap, Conway Twitty, Kenny Rogers, Charlie Daniels, a lot of the, I guess, almost the era just after the Hank Williams era, if you will. And so I found that was my, Mickey Gilley, even, Mickey
Right.
Gilley. Some of the guys that were coming up that were like brand new were like the Garth Brooks and the George Straits. I mean, really, they were like babies when I was a little, they were just coming up in their career, if you will. So, but yeah, I really, and even people like Linda Ronstadt and, Crystal Gale and, some going back, if you really, really go back, some Patsy Cline and, things like that. But I also love to listen to like Roy Orbison. I always thought he had such a really fantastic voice for a male, and was a good showman as well. So there's a lot of inspiration that I got living out of Houston, plenty of it.
So, along the way, you've developed yourself as a songwriter as well. As a songwriter, you talk about all those big names, and certainly there was a lot of big names and songwriters behind those artists. Do you find yourself peeling back the layers and really studying the craft through the lens of some of those folks who really helped put those artists on the map?
I haven't really as much as I probably should, and I do know songwriters of today more so than I did back then. Back then, this is the way it was for me as a kid. Now, if you were an adult, it would have been a different perspective, but you didn't know anybody but Ronnie Millsap, or you
Right,
didn't know anyone but, Charlie Daniels or whatnot. And even though I think they wrote a lot of probably some of their songs, or co-wrote, but there were people that, like, let's take, for instance, Elvis, the biggest artist of all time. Elvis didn't write his songs, and you
right,
didn't care.
right,
You just
right,
didn't care.
right,
You knew Elvis was just fantastic performer, and whether he wrote the song or not, man, he made you believe that he did.
right.
But I think it is important not to diminish, not saying that to diminish those songwriters that came up and started the music industry for country music. I do feel like they owe a lot of credence, they owe a lot of respect, and I'm always about trying to lift up the songwriter and the songwriting community as much as I possibly physically can with the time I have, and the bandwidth I have, But I respect writers, and I know, because I am one, and I know it takes a lot of work to make a great song. It's not just wake up and all of a sudden you're just writing a great song. It takes years and years of honing your craft, and then it takes getting in the room with the right people. Or if you just write yourself, then you have written, probably more than likely, hundreds or maybe even thousands of songs that your own writing style, so you're just kind of like auditioning for yourself every day, if you will, you know what I mean, against yourself, I guess you should say. So
Right.
uh, it's certainly it's a labor of love. It's a work, and for me, it's a never ending trying to up it, going forward. So yeah.
So in your career, I mean, you've co-written with folks who've written for everybody from Reba and Brooks and Dunn and George Strait and George Jones on down to Taylor Swift and Justin Moore and Sugarland and artists like that. How did you slide into that role? Tell me a bit about how you transitioned from Houston, Texas to Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, I was basically in eighth grade, and unfortunately, my mom and my dad got a divorce. That was a huge traumatic era for me, as a young boy, as you can imagine, and it just was one of those things where, honestly, looking back, it crushed me when my parents broke up, and once that happened, my mom decided to move to Southern California because my grandmother moved out to Southern California because it was really just for my grandmother. She wanted to retire in better weather, and
Mhm.
she did, and to San Diego. And so when I moved to San Diego, I was like a fish out of water. Literally, I was like a Houstonian going to a full-on surf culture. We never lived more than 3 miles from the beach, and I say that only because, not to sound, uh, like I'm bragging or something like that, but it just ended up that way. When I landed in California, the first thing I had to do was learn how to surf. If I didn't, then I would have to play football, and I'm not really big enough to play football. Um, and so, I mean, I could have, but I would probably got hurt too bad. So I just, I really, really took to surfing in that community, and so in that there was music, and there were people there were creatives in that industry, in that sort of that circle. And from there, I met some guys, and we started a band. And when we started the band, just out of high school, that was it. That was it. I never went back. I never
Uh,
went back. Yes, it was crazy.
and what were you guys playing?
We were playing pop rock, and we started off with the Eagles. We started off with Journey. We started off with Steve Miller. Um, we were just doing some of those, Van Morrison stuff. It was really very Southern California rock. It's the only way I can kind of like describe it. Beach rock and sort of like that vibey stuff. And then we'd even cover like Pearl Jam and Chili Peppers and stuff like that, but soon, very soon, actually, right when we started, we decided we were going to start writing songs. And that was where I said, man, I can write a song and we can release it, and it's our own song and people are singing to our own songs, and it just made sense. And so from that point on, I've probably written 600 songs since that point in my life. And there was probably a couple hundred that I wrote with the band. And then from there on as a solo artist, like, I don't know, like I said, 300 or 400. Some writers, it's interesting, will say, well, I've written thousands of songs. Well, I think that's cool. But I also say, what is the quality of your songs like?
Right.
You know what I mean? And not to, again, I don't want to stand on a pedestal and say that, but that was my approach to the songwriting, and whether or not that is the way, I don't say it is or not.
Right. So you're there in Southern California. I failed to ask earlier, when did you first pick up a guitar?
When I was, probably like right out of high school, or maybe just in high school, I first picked up an electric guitar and tried to do something on it. And that's another thing. It's like I had friends that were already playing guitar for probably 4 or 5 years,
right?
And they're, maybe I'm like 16 or 18. They've been playing since 10 years old. You know what I mean? And some of them could play already Eruption, on the guitar. They were already playing like, some like Ozzy Osbourne licks and things like that and whatever. And I would be like, and see, that's what's interesting. If I would have had lived in Tennessee, people would have been playing like Greg Allman, the Allman Brothers. They would have been playing Alabama licks. They would have been playing more country licks. But because I lived more so in that area, that region, they were doing more like, Ozzy and Doors, Pink Floyd. They were doing things like that, which again, it's all music that is technical. There's no easy way to play a Pink Floyd solo. It's just straight up, you have to be that good to do it. But looking back, if I kind of wish I could have grown up more so into music in like either Alabama or Tennessee, in that region. But it is what it is. I mean, I grew up where I was supposed to grow up, and I got a pop flavor, which kind of helped me now today, because now I see things in a more, because the way country music has formed up and shaped up, it is more pop nowadays.
Right.
That's the market.
So how do you circle back around and find yourself back into country music and exploring that route?
Well, I live in, now that we live in Tennessee, for the last 5 years, I've been in little bitty towns that nobody knows about in the South. And there's just some good old hometown people there. And that's, to me, country music. And I think we might've touched on this. Country music is trying your best to tell the truth through 3 chords.
Right.
And it's talking about life. It's talking about real life things. If you're going through hell, if you're going to heaven, you got to go through hell. That song. I mean, if you think about the songs that have been written, it's really about day-to-day life of your family, your church, God, maybe hanging out at the lake, or, Kenny Chesney likes to talk about a lot about the ocean, right? He likes that setting. But like George Strait likes to write, about the troubadour, he likes to write about things like that. I think that or I should say, he gets songs written for him about that. He sings about that. But I think that for me, when I go to these little towns, I just see country music in the people of faith, in their faces, in their hearts. And they grew up listening to all the music that I did, basically, Alabama, George Jones, Some of them are, of course, Garth Brooks, but it's all that old country. So that's where I find myself like more deep rooted in that. And what's funny is I'm not even country. I find people who are even way more country than I am, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like they are like they'll peel back layers of writers. And I'll be like, I didn't even know that that person wrote that, or I didn't know that they. But one of the first, I'll digress for a second. Uh, one of the first people I met in Nashville, her name was Gail Davies. So not many people even know that name. Okay, but if you were to go Google Gail Davies, you'll see that she was the first female country producer in Nashville, and she was around Chris Christopherson, Willie Nelson, Johnny Cat. I mean, she was in that scene and very much part of country music in the very beginning here. And I got to meet her, and we got to go have lunch with her. She was so kind. Her son is actually Chris Scruggs, who plays, who plays in Marty's band.
Right. Marty
Yep,
Stewart.
Marty Stewart's band. And his grandfather is Earl Scruggs.
Right.
So a lot of people don't even know history, like, you know what I mean? They just know like who's Justin, Moore. It's like
Right.
they don't know like going back. And some people are finding out who Steven Cade is. So that's great too. There's always something new that's coming up, but also paying attention to I guess you could just say the way a song was created and why it was created in the past, and respecting that. And I just personally, like to write songs as much as I can without, alcohol connotations or suggestive things that if you're in a park and there are kids around, I don't really want to say things that even dropping slight subliminal hints, if possible, for kids to pick up on. I try to do that. That doesn't mean I always succeed, because part of country music, if you go look at it, somebody's talking about drinking, Jack Daniels, or they're talking about drinking whiskey. I mean, that's just, most country songs, there are a lot of them that are like that,
Right.
but then there's some that are not. Like, I'll give you an example, like Rascal Flatts songs. If you listen to their songs, they don't have a lot of that stuff in their songs.
Right.
And that's pretty honorable to me. That is like, that if you could accomplish, God Bless the Broken Road, that's pretty darn good, if you ask me. You know what I mean? Anyways.
Oh, that's good. That's good stuff. So connect the dots for me. How do you get from Southern California to Nashville, and were there any other stops along the way?
Yeah, from San Diego, about 5 years ago. Well, see, if I rewind to 2002, I was I was being managed by a gentleman by the name of Charlie Londano, and he used to work at A&M Records, and he's an entertainment lawyer now in LA. Actually, he's in Florida. And so Charlie Londano, he lived in Nashville at one time, and he met at the time he was living in Nashville, he met a lot of people through the record industry. And so he was managing me and the band at that time. And he said, "Hey, I'm going to send you guys out to Nashville to write songs. I want you to know what it's like to write songs." So we went out there we came out here in 2002. So that was before a lot happened here. You know what I mean? It was still fresh here. And I got to write with a handful of writers that were way, like, how should I say, they were way more experienced than I was at that time, and I still got to get in the room with them. And so I thought, you know what, I want to come back here. I want to come back here more often. And I did. I ended up coming back to Nashville around 2000, I think, somewhere around 2014. I got sick with meningitis. I'll just kind of go there for a second. I got sick with meningitis in 2005, and I almost died. I had my right side of my body was paralyzed. I had 110 white blood cells in my CSF fluid. it took me 10 years for me to get back into a better health, if you will. So it was a big detour. That was God's way of saying, I got a different plan for your life other than what you're doing right now. That was it. And right after I got sick, I thankfully, my wife, who was not my wife at the time, we were dating, but we had been separated in terms of like boyfriend and girlfriend for a little while because I was touring. And so my mom was like, you know what, you need to do the right thing. You need to marry her. And I said, yes, Mom, you're right. And I did the right thing. And I asked Kelly to marry me, and we have 2 beautiful kids. And that's a whole other story. But bottom line is that's what God wanted. And so I basically came out in 2014, recorded a record. Well, like that was called, let's call them a record. Everybody still does, I guess, at the Castle. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the Castle. It's in Franklin, and it's right there off old Hillsborough Road. And Al Capone, I guess, used to be his house. And, Jimmy Bowen would record there, and all these other people that were just ridiculously talented. I got to record there with Chris Rodriguez and Janae Flanor. Janae Flanor actually has won, you know that name, right?
Yeah, great fiddle virtuoso.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, whoa. So Janae got to come record with me, and also Dran Michael, who is the owner of Warrior Guitars, and now he's married to Amber Harrington, who was like one of the finalists of The Voice. They live in Charlotte, or actually Chattanooga. Chattanooga. And Dran helped me produce this record called What I Really Want to Say. And that's the one you saw that went to like number 75 on the iTunes charts. And I was passing up Willie Nelson and John Denver. And it was just a crazy, wacky time at that time, And so that was it. And when I came in 2014, I looked around, I was with my family. I'm like, you know what? I want to move here. I knew it. And I already knew it already, but I just couldn't really lock it down. There were some affirmations along the road, or confirmations to say, from people saying, hey, you need to move to Nashville. And we finally just did it. And it took everything we had to do it, to get out of Southern California. It took everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So as you sit here now, was it the right move? Was it a good move?
Oh yeah, 100%. For many reasons. Pardon me. For many reasons, because California, honestly, her politics are a little funky. Let's just say that now. When I moved to California, it was the Golden State. And it was like, man, it was beautiful. There was just no, I mean, it was, it was paradise. It really was. There was probably no kid in America that, I mean, other than our class, our generation, or those people who live and grow up on the West Coast in that region in ridiculously good weather. The weather is not even fair. It's stupid, so you live this life that's not real. Honestly, it's not real. And so it's good to have gotten out of there. And now I look back and I'm like, that was a cool season in my life. I'm glad I experienced all that. And I love, there's people there that I love, but I don't miss California. I don't miss California. I miss the fish tacos sometimes, but that's it. but other than that, really, I look at it like God was ready to move on, move me here. And I feel like I've always kind of, if maybe you could relate, but I don't know. I feel like I've always been on the road, I guess, my whole life, looking back now. And, so it's been not like I'm an Army or Navy, kid, because some kids grew up with Army or Navy or, Air Force or Marines families. And you hear about them traveling everywhere, their whole life. And that's not, but I have traveled quite a bit.
We got a Weisenheimer in here. Ryan Rooster Lee making an appearance. He wants to know, what kind of tacos do fish eat out there?
Do fish eat? Oh, that's
you were talking about the fish tacos.
Yeah, we eat, well, if he's talking about the fish don't eat tacos, but But we mahi tacos. I don't, hopefully that doesn't sound too hoity toity. I don't know, but that's what it is. But yeah, they have some ridiculously good. One day, Brent will have to go out there and have a taco together.
We'll have to do that. We'll bring Rooster with us. He's my right hand man. He's down there with you all in Nashville. He's a singer songwriter and
cool.
and resident wise guy. So
what's up, Ryan? Resident wise guy. Hey, there's John Hickey. John Hickey's on.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
Go ahead.
There's a lot of people checking in here, and I'm looking at the clock here. We've been talking for about 26 minutes, and I've got Wendy House piping up saying, "Can you sing us a song already?" So what we're going to do here is I've got music queued up. You talk about doing the right thing a little earlier. We've got the song "The Best Thing" here. Set this one up for us.
So the best thing was written by a friend of mine and myself, Steve Gear, and Steve Gear, God rest his soul, he passed away last year, but just before he passed away. So this is let me rewind a bit. 5 years ago, Steve came to me and said, "Hey, Steven, would you write this song that I have? And I only have a title and a few chords and a couple little things. It's only a little, can you write this song for my wife? We've been married 3 years or something. And I just want to tell her how much I love her and that she's the best thing." And I'm like, "Yeah, Steve, I'd love to." And I think I had just moved to Nashville and it was just really hard for me to even get acclimated. Right. And I'm like, "Give me a little time, Steve." Well, he had so much patience. It took about 4 years. And so I finally said, "Steve, let's write that song." And so we wrote the song, "The Best Thing," together. We recorded it. It got over 100,000 streams right away. It got considered for a Grammy for Best Country Solo Performance. It got nominated for a Josie Music Award. And all of these things happened, and we made a video for it. They all happened right before Steve passed away. He got to see me perform it in front of his entire community last summer. And literally 2 weeks after I performed it, he passed away in his sleep. And I was like, man, that was a hard day. And I still miss him. He was a good old Oklahoma boy. He had a big, booming, deep voice, just straight up, just a good man, just a great man. One of those men that just, you make it, like right now I'm thinking about him. And so The Best Thing turned out wonderful. So that's it. There it is. There's The Best Thing.
Well, I've got Matthew chiming in here to say good years. And Matthew, stay tuned because we're going to play that one a little bit later on. But Wendy, we got this one for you here. We're going to cue this one up if I can find where it got away from us. This is The Best Thing.
As I think back through the memories of this life that I've spent with you, of that day oh so long ago when you finally said yes I do, I'll always believe that we were meant to be, and I want you to know that I love you so. You're the very air I breathe, and you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. Well, the years have come and gone as we walk along, holding hands through this crazy thing called life. Lord knows it's all part of the plan. I'll always believe that we were meant to be, and I want you to know that I love you so. You're the very air I breathe, and you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I thank God every day that you became my wife. You're my North Star, my guiding light. You brought me love you so. You're the very air I breathe, and you're the best thing. Yeah, I'll always believe that we were meant to be, and I want you to know that I love you so. You're the very air I breathe, and you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. Yeah, honey, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. As I think back through the memories of this life that I've spent with you.
Oh, great stuff there.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So when he heard that song, what was his reaction?
He was blown away. He was
Yeah.
blown away. He went directly to every person that he went to every person he's ever met since he was born. I'm not even, and that's 85. Can you imagine how many people he told everybody he ever met? And oh man, people were coming back. He'd send me the emails. It was, you know how things happen in life, and things are moving so fast, and you appreciate those moments. You're trying to take them in as they're coming along, but you really, I mean, I guess that's why when you finally get, your grandparents, you see them looking at you differently. You're like, what are you looking at, grandma? What are you looking at? They're looking at it in a different perspective. You know what I mean? And now that I look back on this song and I hear it and I think about all these things that happened with it, it was all meant to be. It was all meant to happen like that, so God knows. That's all I know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, he has blessed you with a tremendous platform. And that's something that I know you haven't taken for granted here. And you have tried to use that as you put together your Giving Guitars program. We mentioned at the outset that you've created this program that's putting guitars into the hands of folks who might not otherwise have access to them. Tell me a bit about how and why the program was established.
So that program started in really in October of 2021, but there was something that happened in the summer of 2021 that I had no idea that was going to happen. And so I was called to be a performer in the backyard of a party in Brentwood, Tennessee. Kelly had set this show up for me, and we knew it was going to be fancy. I guess I'll use the word fancy because they were going to send a driver to pick me up. Anytime they send a driver to pick you up, you're in a different, this isn't just a normal good old backyard party, which are great. I love those. I love every backyard party, but this one. So we walk in the back of this house that was just a beautiful home. And in the back, there was a lot of people in the pool, and I felt like I was in a movie set. And so I got my guitar on, and I briefly met the owner and his wife, and they seemed like they were very, just chill, cool people. And I started playing. My family was with me, my son and my daughter, my wife, and that was different because there were other performers there, and those other performers just came solo. And that's normally how people show up, by the way. Normally people show up when at a gig, but I don't roll like that. I roll with my family everywhere I go. 90% of the gigs I play, my family's with me. So I basically, where my family was there, and this gentleman was very, very successful. And actually his name is Brent as well. And so he said, why don't we do a podcast? I have like this podcast, like some to this, another is so interesting. He's like, let's do a podcast. I said, okay, let's do a podcast. So I go to his place, and he starts. I didn't know. I knew very little about Brent, but it was really interesting. The podcast was done in a way where he was kind of sharing with me what his goals and some of the things he's done. Then I shared mine. And at the very end, we were done. He said, well, look, how about if we do something where we could maybe put some guitars into some, unfortunate kids' hands or something like that. And it was at the very end. I thought, and it really came out of left field. This question came, it would be like you saying, hey, Steven, we're going to do something at the very end. And I'd be like, what was that? Right. I mean, it was just like,
Well, I guess that surprise is out of the question now.
You know what I mean? So he's like, so he goes, and I go, okay, I guess so. And so he goes, then afterwards, he goes, why don't you pray about it with your wife, um, on how you can use your gifts and talents to help other people help others. So Kelly and I were driving in Texas on a show. I was going to play in Dripping Springs, and Kelly's like, why don't we do something that's called Instruments for Inspiration? And why don't we give guitars to less fortunate families and whatnot? I said, that's great. So we went back to Brent and we said, this is our idea. And he said, okay, let's go with it. So we went to our first shelter in Texas. And you know what? I think it's very significant that I went to Texas first. And it was in Austin, Texas. And it was the Rathgaber Center, which was a Salvation Army for homeless families. And I donated our first guitar there. And since then, in September of 2021, which is about 18 months ago now, we've been to 66 homeless shelters. We've donated over 150 guitars or so. We've been to 15 states, raised over $300,000 in money for all these organizations, and impact thousands of lives. And it's just been amazing.
Wow. That's a lot to happen in 18 months. Tell me a bit about the logistics behind that. Because if you've never run a nonprofit, if you've never organized anything like this before, and you just, walk over to the deep end of the pool and just dive in head first, I mean, that's absolutely what you guys did there. How did you navigate that?
Well, the key is that we didn't do it; God did it. But
Right.
when I look at it, if in let's call them the natural and what God allowed us to do, we basically at first, and really throughout the whole process, we could not have done it without the support of Brent Yates and his brand Gravity of Up financially, and then others that have come along now. People that are on our board that are coming on board and helping us financially do this. Money doesn't solve everything.
Right.
Money doesn't. It helps. It does, but it doesn't solve everything. It is a tool, and God gave us that tool to go out and really be good stewards of it. But what it takes is your heart and your passion for people. In the Bible, it says to go out and serve the widows and the orphans, and it's just not enough of that going on with anybody, let alone people who have a platform.
Right.
So I just said, we just put we just opened up the emails, we've made our calls, we followed up, and it got to the point where then we were getting calls from different organizations. And especially when I go into a town, I try to really, that's like about 50% of it. I'll look, for instance, I'm going to play in Alabama at this place called the Westwood Market, and that's going to be in June. And so what I did was I called up the owner of the Westwood Market and I said, do you guys have an organization in your town there that could use a guitar, like a foster home or a homeless family shelter, a bridge housing, at-risk youth center? And they're like, well, let me think about this. Actually, yes, there is one called King's Home. And I actually happen to know the director at King's Home. Would you like to be in touch with? I said, yes, I would love to meet them. So at that point, I go and I make the introduction. I create a relationship. Relationships are important. People have to learn to trust you and know that you have the right intentions, and that, it just takes time to build those, and so, and I think that it's time well spent. It does take about 20 to 30 hours for every shelter that we visit in terms of logistics, setting it up, emails, making sure that everything is set, getting the guitar for it, then traveling to it, doing a tour. When we get there, we normally take a little tour of the facility, sometimes a bigger tour. In the very beginning, for the first like 40 of them, we took big tours, and I mean big ones, like the entire Orlando. I'll never forget Orlando Rescue Mission, Salvation Army. We arrived and they were there waiting for me like they do, and they said, okay, well, Mr. Cade, you ready to go on the tour? I said, yes. I go, well, how big is this property? She goes, well, it's 8 acres. I said, oh boy. I said, all right, I guess we're in for a tour. So we toured every building in there, and we got footage of it all. And it was just to see how an operation is run at that scale is mind blowing. It's mind blowing. You know, there's people that come in from all walks of life. And I mean, I was just on the phone today with a gentleman that this gentleman in Southern California. They have a thing called Set Free Ministries. You get 60 days to come in, have shelter, food, and the Bible, and they study Proverbs, and they have to stay off alcohol. They cannot do anything like that is out of sort of rules. Like you can't cuss, you can't, you know, and it's just like this really amazing ministry. And so we're going to donate a guitar there in July. And so I was talking to him, and we were just talking about how the Lord leads us to the right people at the right time, you know? And so we were encouraging one another. And that's part of what I do is I walk in there and we pray and we talk to the directors and we smile and we just be lights and have the energy that is needed for that moment, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because those places, there's a lot of desperation. There's a lot of uncertainty and disbelief, confusion. There is just a lot of people who don't know who they are in Christ. They don't even know God. That's
Right.
part of it. And so we try to do what we can. And there was one instance, but only one time where I couldn't say the word God, but that was just once. But I mean, other than that, you know, pretty much I can walk in and sing Amazing Grace if I want to, which is great, you know. But this has been a journey, Brent. It's been a journey, and we're getting ready to do more. We're going to hit 100 shelters by the end of the year, guaranteed. We are going to do it, and if I have to hit 11,000 shelters to say to America, because this is a bigger statement about what I'm about to say. There is a solution for this. There is a solution. I have the people in my phone now that have the solution to tremendously cut back on homelessness, like almost kill it, except for the people who don't want to be, you know, they don't want a home. Some people are just always going to be wanderers. That's just that. But for the other people, there is a fix. And the problem is that the people who are leading our country right now don't want to hear the solution. And so we're going to gently share that with them.
Right.
We're going to gently share it with them. And that's all I can say, you know, and let God, really, God is going to do it. God is going to do it. I'm not going to even have to really do a whole lot other than obey the Lord and follow his will. And that's it.
And through this, if anybody else happens to learn how to play the guitar or it inspires them to go out and follow in your footsteps, that's just icing on the cake, isn't it?
Oh man, that's what I say to everybody after every. I said, look, when you guys write your first hit song, you better give me a call, and I want to know. I want to be there. I want to be at the award show. I want to know all about it. And we do. We want to know all the testimonies, and we've had some stories already where they're building music therapy programs inside.
Nice.
And we've also now made some friends that we're hopefully going to do some greater things in the future. There's bigger dreams and visions, and I just want to encourage everybody to just stay close to Giving Guitars. Go to givingguitars.org, because I'm going to be, as we go forward, I'm going to be just dropping little hints of things that I'd love to do. Of course, I'm going to always go, every time I play somewhere, I'm going to always want to go give a guitar to a shelter somewhere, somehow. But I want to do this bigger. I have a bigger vision, and it's pretty big, and it's going to go global. We're already going to be in Sweden, and they are lining up a Giving Guitars visit in Sweden right now for us at a local church there, which is it's actually a big foundation in Sweden, in Gothenburg, one of the biggest. And we are going to go and we're going to make international news. The only way to get, you know, people, if you think about all the biggest movements that happened in the world, and I always kind of go back, it's silly sometimes, but do you remember Farm Aid by Willie Nelson?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So he made a statement. Agreed. I mean, I feel like he made a statement.
Right.
How do you do that? How does one even begin to dream that? You just, of course, for me, I know it's a God thing, but at the same time, you've got to go and obey the Lord and tell him, you got to basically, he's got to tell you what to do, and you receive it and you follow in his will. And, yeah, so that's where that's at.
And you got to put yourself out there. Like you said, you got to go.
Mm-hmm. And you got to go to where people look. It's not all about country clubs. We go into very low income neighborhoods. That's where I take my kids. And I say that with all due respect to every human being in the world. I don't mean to say that to say, oh gosh, the rich people are just sitting there driving their little go-karts all around their homes and everything. No, it's not that. It's just, that's where those areas are. They're not in the upper class areas. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, I'm going to give people a taste of what one of these visits look like. And if I remember correctly, this one was Bowling Green, Kentucky, at a, let's see here,
Salvation Army.
Salvation Army. That's right. Thank you. I had blanked there for a minute. Absolutely. Check this out.
All right, here we go. We're going to go inside of the Salvation Army in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and really excited about it. Hey, look what we got here, giving guitar tours. How cool is that? And we're with Monica. You are the director of this one?
So my husband and I are the officers here, the captains.
Yeah.
And so we oversee all the operations, I guess. The main thing here is our center of hope. So this facility is our center of hope, where we have housing. So we have a residential shelter, family unit shelter, and we offer a feeding program. So a noonday lunch where we feed the community. And so that's kind of a big part of our operation.
On behalf of myself and Brent Yates and Restore Us, we want to give you guys a couple of guitars for the residents that come through, and obviously for families that are falling in hard times, children in need. We just want them to be able to utilize these instruments to give them positive distractions, give them hope, inspire them, let them inspire other people, because we're giving to inspire, because the Bible says it's better to give than to receive. But what we're doing is we're going around the country. We're hitting all the Salvation Armies and other homeless shelters. It's not just Salvation Armies, but we're bringing music.
Faces looking up to see a better me, a better shoulder, a willing heart to pull you closer, a human being human.
Well, this is fabulous. This is definitely going to be an encouragement to our residents and our families, and obviously music.
And that's what it's all about right there.
Man, that's insane. I love that.
And when you think about that being replicated over multiple times, it just it's powerful.
Yeah, it's something that I could have never dreamed of doing this. Honestly, Brent, there's no way. You would have told me 5 years ago when I moved here I'd be doing this. I'd be like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I couldn't, and I can only imagine. And you know what, as believers, our hope is in Christ. And this is not the world that we're supposed to really get used to. We have heaven to look forward to, an eternity with Jesus Christ. And we can't even imagine what that's like. But I can only imagine for a second, what is it going to be like in 5 months from now, 5 weeks from now, 5 years from now, when giving guitars goes to the next level. It's just going to be, we're going to see amazing things happen. And so if that much can happen in 18 months, that's it. And it feels good to be a part of something that is like something's getting done. I feel like something's getting done. I really do. And I just don't want to be music. So I got a guitar right here. I'm sitting with a guitar. This thing right here, so many people play. So many people right now in Nashville are playing a guitar right now. They're playing and they're singing in the honky tonks, and that's great. Entertainment and leisure is wonderful. But I say we're in 2023, and ever since at least 1920s, 30s, even earlier, a song was born like on a guitar. Somebody sang a song and they recorded it and they began to share it. That is over 100 years ago now. And so many 60,000 songs are released every day on Spotify. Today, 60,000 songs are released. If we just stop and think about that for a second, just stop and think about 60,000 people who are artists sang those songs. What about the people who wrote the songs, produced the songs, the studios that had the songs, all that stuff? They're part of it too, right? It's part of the music industry. But what is the purpose of it now at this point? We've already had, somebody says, well, we're going to write the best song. I mean, some of the best songs have already been written. I mean, I think they have. And somebody be like, well, there's going to be more. Yes, there will be more. But let's look at the songs that have come already, like even Forever and Ever, Amen. What a great song that Randy Travis sang, right? I mean, everybody still wants to write it, Forever and Ever, Amen, and they haven't yet done it. That's it. That's the song right there. And so it doesn't mean you stop writing songs. It means, why do you do it? That is the one question I will ask anybody coming into the music industry who's 13 or 20 or 50. Why are you doing it? What is your why? And everybody's going to have a different why. Everybody's going to say, because my dog died, or because, because I just felt the Lord call me, or because I want to sing in a bar, or whatever. They all have different reasons. And I just feel like, man, we can do better. We can do better. We can create music, and we can create music that is powerful and that can move lives and change lives in a positive way. And that's where I will stand, Brent. I will always stand on that pillar, if you will.
Right.
And I won't be ashamed of it, and I won't make excuses for it. It just is who I am, and that's my plight, and that's my path. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, that being your why, what are some of your career goals at this point?
Career-wise, I would like to continue to grow as an artist, and really just get to be a better musician. Really, I still don't feel like I have mastered playing guitar or singing. I feel like there's more to do for me as just a songwriter and an artist and a performer and a musician. I want to always try to raise the bar in that and try to create quality content. As far as awards, I mean, would I like to win a Grammy? Absolutely. Would I like to win an ACM? Sure. A CMA? Absolutely. Would I like to sell out Nissan Stadium for 3 nights in a row where there's 70,000 people? Yes, I would love to do those things. However, that's not my red laser focus. That's not what that makes sense. That's not in my crosshairs.
Right.
It's going to, if God wants it, when and if it happens, if God wants it to happen, then it's going to happen in his timing. On that journey that I'm heading that way, I'm going to try to take as many people as I can with me and bless them with these guitars and with the word of God and with the hope of Jesus Christ, and do it in a unique way where I don't have to go call myself a Christian artist, because I think that pigeonholes me into a certain genre. And now I'm only useful in churches or Christian music festivals.
Right.
That's
Absolutely. No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. So I ask you this, just what we've seen in the growth of the foundation over the last 18 months, as that continues to grow, how do you balance that with career, or do you see the foundation work becoming more of the mission and the purpose?
That's a great question. Right now, we have been able to balance it okay. It is definitely very much time consuming in terms of, how fast and far I want my career to rise. But I can't exactly see the future other than continuing on the path that we're doing right now. I always want a good portion of my career to be giving back. So no matter what, there's always going to be a percentage of my time and my energy, my songs, my content, my connections, all of the energy and resources will be used to give back to the foundation for some reason, somehow. I will never just say, oh, now you guys go ahead and run, giving guitars, and I'll just make a cameo once a year at the signature gala. No, that will never, ever happen. And Mark, just go ahead and record this video, keep it there. And somebody's going to oh, this is what you said. No, it's too much of a part of me now. And so I love it, man. I love doing it. I look forward to the next time I get to bless kids and families who never get to see things like this. You know what I mean? So, but do I get to stand on big stages? Yeah, I'm going to get to play at the biggest country music festival in Sweden. I'm going to get to play at Country Thunder in July. I'm going on tour between now and June. I'm going to be doing, a multitude of things. I couldn't even tell you. There's a bunch of really fun things on my calendar that are going to be happening between now and the middle of June. The best thing to do is go to my website, check it out. But then there's also stuff that's going to be happening from late June till basically end of August. And I'm going to be releasing a song called Barbecue here pretty soon. And that is going to be a really cool song. And of course, I just released Good Years, but I'm going to be releasing Barbecue on May 26th. So mark your calendars for May 26th. That's going to be my next release. And it's a song that I wrote about basically just having a good time in a backyard, eating some barbecue with some friends, basically. And it's fun though. You'll get it. It's like no other barbecue song that's been written. If there's ever been a barbecue song written, I don't even know. So,
Well, you mentioned Good Years. That's the new single that just dropped here. Tell us about that one.
So Good Years was written for NASCAR, and really over a father and a son bonding over NASCAR. NASCAR is a big community out there. It's a sport that much later in life, I didn't even really, until much later in life, I didn't really even pay attention to it. But as of recent, my good friend Brent asked me to come on a sort of this retreat where we get to drive these race cars. And so I drove these cars around, and it was really hard. It was really, really, really hard. If I'd be on, it was scary for me. And I mean, I'm going like 150 miles an hour, and then I'm like going into a turn, and then it's crazy. So right. I thought, these guys are wild, man. They're just on a whole other level of physical and mental ability. And so I thought, I'm so interested in NASCAR, and I thought, I want to write a song. And my friend Cody Kelly came in with the idea, and Greg Wilson was with us on that, right? And we just wrote this song called Good Years, and it's just done great things. People love it. It's a really fun song to play live, and it recorded wonderfully.
We're going to let everybody hear it now so they can get a taste of it themselves. This is Good Years.
Wasn't the pop of a mid or the cast of a line, being a kid on a tractor, learning how to drive on the back 40. No, not for me. I felt closest to my dad when we load up the car and head out to the track on a Sunday. Man, my favorite place was at Bristol, Daytona, and Talladega, cheering on 3, the Intimidator. Driver, start your engines, let the green flag fly, watching them cars go zooming by. It was the Brickyard, Charlotte, and Darlington. You could feel it in your chest when they let those horses run, with my old man in the stands as the crowd cheers. We had some good years, watching those good years. t-shirt, shouting out, Gordon, you're a jerk, every time that he drove by. Some of the best times of my life was at Bristol, Daytona, and Talladega, cheering on 3, the Intimidator. Driver, start your engines, let the green flag fly. Watching them cars go zooming by. It was the Brickyard, Charlotte, and Darlington. You could feel it in your chest when they let those horses run. With my old man in the stands as the crowd cheers. We had some good years, watching those good years. Yeah, yeah. Just like those tires turn, life comes full circle, and I'm here with my boy, and I hope one day he will. Say it was Bristol, Daytona, and Talladega, cheering on my favorite racers. Driver, start your engines, let the green flag fly. Watching them cars go zooming by. It was the Brickyard, Charlotte, and Darlington. Maybe one day after I'm gone, he'll look back and say, those were the greatest years. My old man, watching those good years. Watching those good years.
And that will get the adrenaline going. I like it. I like it.
Well, yeah, you would have it when we recorded that. We recorded it with Ilya Tushinsky.
Yeah.
Phil Lawson was on the drums. Rob McNeely was on the guitar. Mark Hill was on the bass, and Ilya Tushinsky was playing. It was so, when I go into the studio with Ilya, it really is a magical moment. Every time we record something, it just happens. And even Pinky Promise. I mean, Pinky Promise is another great song. And it just is like, we hit it out of the park right away. And he doesn't, it's one of those things where he gets in, he charts it up, band's ready, run it, bam. We have the bed of the music. And then we take those files and tracks, and I go and do some overdubs, and I record the vocals, and we put the real pretty sparkly stuff on it. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, small world, excuse me, small world connection here. Ilya played banjo on my first theme song for my first show with Dustin Collins, the song Working Man, that was produced by Bill McDermott down at Omnisound.
Oh my God.
And he's a multi-time ACM CMA musician of the year, a great banjo player, guitar player, just amazing musician.
Yeah, he pretty much is. And I love it. And he's funny too. He has this funny little, I call him Ilya sayings, the riff of destiny. That was he's like, give me a riff of destiny there, Chris. And I'm like, he has his little sayings, but it's fun. We for the little time we do get to spend, we do. And I go try to catch lunch with him. And when we can, coffee. Of course, he just got producer of the year or something like that, or for Son of a Sinner from Jelly Roll. So that was his first big production, like the first mention as a producer,
Boy, that song blew up, didn't it?
Yeah, I did. for better or for worse, but yeah, it did. But yeah, it's good because I think that, Elia had it, he's worked, as well, look, how long he's worked.
Right.
He's been at it, grinding at it. And sometimes you can grind, Brent, that, and keep going and keep getting in there and hammering away and trying every day, and it just doesn't happen. And what I mean by it is your career going to the next level. It could just keep staying. It feels like time, like in one place for a while,
Right.
and maybe just maybe you'll get that one big boom, that one big spark or lift or boost or song or connection, and then you get to move to the next level. But it doesn't always happen, even for the hard workers,
Right. Well, we all know whose timing it's on, right?
Amen, brother. You know it.
Well, I tell you what, if folks want to follow you, if they want to stay plugged in on the socials, want to stay plugged in on the websites, where do they go to do all that stuff?
So you can go to my website. It is stevencade.com, Steven with the V, Cade with the C, CADE.com. And you can go to, obviously Steven Cade Country on Instagram, Steven Cade Music on TikTok, Steven Cade Music on Facebook. Those are most of the places. I'm also on LinkedIn, but mostly, Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, of course, Steven Cade Music on YouTube. And so, yeah, that's where you can find me and come out to a show. I'd love to play any shows that you guys might have, any backyard parties or private events or corporate parties. And if you guys have foundations, let me know, because I would love to come in and donate a guitar and also work with you and collaborate with you on that way.
I love it. Speaking of guitars, you're holding a guitar here, and I want to put you on the spot a little bit. As we get out of here, could you play an inspirational song for us to get us out of here?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. I would love to do that.
Your choice.
I'm gonna sing a. Let's see here. I'm gonna sing a song that I just recently wrote, if that's okay. And it's called Amazing Grace. And it's not the one that you're thinking about, okay? But it goes a little like this. Grace, you were the prettiest girl I'd seen on the Santa Monica beach. You sat next to me. I could see you were full of grace. Right then and there I knew I was no good for you. You wouldn't want to be with me, a sinner from Tennessee who don't deserve an angel like you. You were a typical preacher's daughter, baptized in holy water, blonde hair, green eyes, everything about you drives me wild. You were the sunrise on my darkest night, my wreck world, you made it right. You took my life from dark and gray, and you colored an amazing grace. I'll just play a little verse and a chorus for you.
We'll take it, man. Hey, thank you so much. I can't wait to hear the rest of that one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. That'll be a July release, but in between then is going to be a barbecue, and that's going to be just off the wall. So I look forward to playing that for y'all.
Excellent. Right in time for the start of summer. Well, I tell you what, Steven, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us here this evening and share a bit about your career and about the Giving Guitars Foundation. Hope everybody will go and check out those websites and find ways to support you as you carry out that mission.
Thank you so much, Brent. I'm so glad we've met, and I look forward to seeing what God's going to do with our relationship.
Absolutely. And I want to thank everybody else for joining us. I know we had a lot of new faces in here tonight, a lot of new names, and that's a blessing to us here. The more people that join what we're doing here to support this music and all support the agriculture industry and the rural America lifestyle here, we'd love for you to stay on board here. We do a lot of these live streams, both in the agricultural realm and also the country music realm. We'll be doing a lot through the spring and summer months. So I hope you'll join us on that journey here. Be plugged into the Rural Strong Media socials. That's the best way to find out about what's upcoming here. The Rural Strong Media Facebook page. You can also catch us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube, and you get the latest. Also, make sure you go to kind of our hub, which is the Rural Strong Media website, ruralstrongmedia.com. There you're going to find our Tractors and Troubadours podcast, as well as live streams. And we got some news there, some educational stuff, and Rural Strong Radio, which is our 24/7 streaming radio station found at ruralstrongmedia.com. Also, the Live 365 streaming radio app. We're playing traditional country music, Western swing, a little bit of bluegrass, a little bit of Southern rock, and some inspirational music. And just a great way to get you through your day here. You just hit up ruralstrongmedia.com or that Live 365 app, search for Rural Strong Radio, and just turn that thing on. We've got some ag programming, a little bit of trucking industry programming as well to serve those folks, but a lot of great country music, including your Steven Cade. You'll find that on there. And I also want you to go subscribe to the Tractors and Troubadours podcast. Each week, we're bringing you agriculture industry newsmakers, hot button industry issues, some educational features, and the best in traditional country music. That also can be found at the website, as well as pretty much anywhere you can get your podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Deezer, Audible, Odyssey, Samsung Free App, Player FM, all those places. Just go subscribe to that podcast, give it a rating, give it a like, and share it around so we can continue to build all this stuff here. And I want to point out a couple other things here. On Sundays on Rural Strong Radio at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, we start out with two great programs coming out of Texas. First, at 10 a.m. Eastern from Vidor, Texas to the world, it's Robbie Lynn with Sunday's Kind of Country. He plays 3 hours of some of the best inspirational country music out there. And you're going to get your Johnny Cash, you're going to get your Christofferson, some George Jones, and you also get a bunch of great independent artists singing some inspirational country music as well. And then at 1 p.m. Eastern, Billy Bowles Swinging Country, emanating out of the great KSSL FM in Lubbock, Texas. He plays 2 hours of great Western swing and traditional country music. So a lot going on there. Hope you give that stuff a listen. Also, I want to point out a couple other live stream programs. I see our friend Kurt Ryle is on here tonight. Kurt is a great producer and the co-owner of Clarksville Creative Sound, a production studio in Clarksville, Tennessee. He and I do a podcast or a vidcast here like this every other Monday. So not this Monday, but next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. And it's called Road Stories with Kurt Ryle. And Kurt spent a lot of years on the road with the likes of Vern Gosden, Ray Price, and has worked with Mel Tillis. Mel Tillis actually brought him to town, and he worked with him at Cedarwood Publishing. He's got just a plethora of great stories to tell here about the music industry, and we kind of peel back the layers on those and have a lot of fun with that show. Place to find that is the Kurt Ryle Road Stories Facebook group and also the Clarksville Creative Sound Facebook group. Make sure you go check that out. Also, if that isn't enough, on Fridays at 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Central, we have got Fort Worth Musical Moments, where I partner up with Steve Marquardt, who's a great Western swing artist and also a partner in Clarksville Creative Sound. And we talk about some of the people making waves in the Fort Worth music scene and people who are part of the fabric of that music community. And we have a phenomenal time with that show. We had the very great and talented Lisa Lane on there last week talking about her career. And we got a lot of great guests coming up. So make sure you stay tuned into that. Find that on the Fort Worth Musical Moments Facebook group, also a Rural Strong Media's Facebook page, and the Clarksville Creative Sound Facebook group. Go investigate those. We're trying to plug in people who love country music, love good old American values, the rural lifestyle, and all that good stuff. And we're just building quite a community here over the past couple of years. And God then puts us in alignment with folks like Steven Cade here, and we get to share his story and just continue to build these bridges here. So I hope you go check all that stuff out. And again, we want to say a special thank you to our sponsor, Economics by Nutrien. And for some of those valuable agronomic tools, make sure you go visit them at nutrien-economics.com. That's nutrien-ekonomics.com. This show automatically archives, so you've missed any of it live, you can catch it on demand immediately following this stream. Well, I tell you what, it's time to get on out of here. So for Steven Cade, thank you, brother. It's Brent Adams. We'll see you again next time here on Rural Strong Live. Have a good night, everybody.
Mm-hmm.